If there's one thing I've learned throughout my years as a Pokemon fan, it's that Brock's muscles are really inconsistent. But if there's another thing I've learned, it's that Pokemon loves Mewtwo. No matter what it is, from the manga to freaking Mario Maker, you can be sure Mewtwo will be there. Even in a game that takes place hundreds of years before Mewtwo was created, it's still right there on the box. So it's really not a surprise that we recently got a brand new Mewtwo movie. Well, sort of. Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution is the first remake of a Pokemon movie, and honestly, I didn't really have high expectations going in. The CG art style seemed a bit off-putting at first, and unlike the last two movies, this one wasn't in theaters, instead debuting on Netflix of all places. Home of such classics as Big Mouth, and that one movie written by a 15-year-old on Wattpad. But after watching this movie multiple times, I feel I can safely say that this remake is better than the original. Well, sort of. Spoilers ahead, for a 21-year-old movie, you've been warned. The original Mewtwo Strikes Back was heavily edited for the English dub. 4Kids notoriously changed a lot of the dialogue, which ultimately ended up hurting the end product. They even added a generic fighting is wrong message, which really doesn't make sense within the context of the series. And for some reason they made a reference to the Minnesota Vikings? Why? Did they really expect me to know about sports ball? Maybe it was a sign that 4Kids would later go on to make sports equipment. Yeah, that happened. However, we have to give 4Kids credit where credit's due. The first movie's soundtrack was really good, dare I say, better than the Japanese version. And while they changed a lot of lines for the worse, there are two really memorable moments that were really born in the dub. I'm afraid to play either of them due to copyright, but I'm pretty sure you know which scenes I'm talking about. Anyway, the remake pretty much fixes all of the dub's issues with the script that's much closer to the original. It's also really self-aware, with many jokes and references which will appeal to longtime Pokemon anime fans. They even take a stab at 4Kids in the best way possible, by having Brock mention his famous jelly donuts. Insert slow clap here. However, this new dub does have some faults. While they kept the iconic Mewtwo line from the 4Kids dub, they reverted Meowth back to the Japanese original, which I personally have mixed feelings about. And I'm sorry, but I just can't get used to Misty's new voice. It felt weird in Sun and Moon, and it feels just as weird here.
Nice to meet you! I'm Misty, international known beauty!
I also would have liked some kind of mention of Amber, but I can see how the story may be considered a bit too dark for a family movie. But here we are, the big one, CGI. Honestly, in my opinion, the CG is really good. The Pokemon are super detailed, just as they are in Pokken. Just look at Pikachu, he has fur, and yet I don't feel Deadpool's voice should be coming out of this one's mouth. But the main complaints were definitely on the human characters. Honestly though, while not perfect, I really don't mind how they look. They're basically more detailed Miraculous characters, which I totally called by the way. They also fixed some continuity issues as well. Remember how Pikachu's Thunderbolt somehow knocked out a Golem? Well, now it's a Drowsy. It's really the little changes that help this movie feel like a much more polished package. Like, when I watched the original, there's this one frame where Rapidash's flames disappear, and I just can't unsee it. And now you won't be able to either. You're welcome. So in the end, I'd say both the original Mewtwo Strikes Back and the new version have their advantages, and they're both definitely worth a watch. But I'd have to choose Evolution for the definitive version. While I personally prefer the hand-drawn animation over CG, the remake just does so much right and fixes so many of the original's problems. And what the heck, cue the scene.
I see now that the circumstances